This is The Litter Box, a Detroit Lions podcast with your hosts, Chet West and Bill Patterson.
Happy New Year, Detroit Lions Litter Box listeners. We are here going into the final week of the season, Week 18, with the Lions traveling to the hallowed ground of Soldier Field to play the Ben Johnson-led Chicago Bears, who are currently sitting as the number 2 seed in the NFC for the playoffs. Listeners, I know you're aware that our Lions are officially eliminated and ending the season with kind of a thud, if you would. So, Chet, Happy New Year's. It's good to see you.
How are you? 26.
Great. And I've got a question for you. It's kind of like a holiday gift or a wish list. What's a realistic wish list for you for your Detroit Lions this offseason?
Oh, let's see. A mobile quarterback who throws dimes 50 yards down the field, an offensive line that's in the top 5 in the league, a defensive line that's in the top 5 in the league, two incredible lockdown corners. When do you want me to stop, Bill? We need so many things at this point in time. My wish list is in the trenches at the moment. I don't think it's going to be realistic for us to upgrade everything in front of us. I want number one, because this team can have a fun offense and has great offensive players with ability, I want an offensive line. We need to figure out the offensive line. If we don't, I think we're just going to replay next season all over again, and maybe have a 500 schedule. Maybe we get a wild card and we lose in the first round. Your thoughts?
I agree with everything you're saying, hence why I included the word realistic, but I appreciated your tongue-in-cheek answer. That was good. Mine would be as follows. Number one, agree with you 100% on the trenches. I don't think Frank Ragnow's a realistic answer at center, so I'm not excited by that at all. I really, really like...
He's not coming back, though, I don't think. I think they've determined that this was just a flash to get him back this year, but I think he's done. Goff made mention that he doesn't see it as being realistic for him to come back.
Jared said it in this week's presser and last week's presser that he talks to Frank all the time and that he doesn't see it. Okay. So a center, that's number one. Number two, another edge rusher to complement Aiden Hutchinson. And then we need guard help or tackle help, depending on how and whom retires. Everything I'm hearing right now, and I'm sure what you're hearing as well, thank you, Dave Burkett. Thank you, 97.1 The Ticket, is saying that Graham Glasgow and Taylor Decker are going to retire. So questions abound, like, do you move Penei Sewell from the right side to the left side? Is Giovanni Manu ready to man one of the tackle spots? Are you comfortable going in with Tate Ratledge and a Christian Mahogany, or is it a Miles Frazier, Tate Ratledge? You know, there's a center I really like from the University of Iowa whose name eludes me right now. I would be intrigued with him as a first round pick. I also, going back to your mobile quarterback that throws dimes, it's supposed to be a deep quarterback class. I know you aren't particularly in love with anybody just yet.
I have heard nothing like that. I have heard nothing along the lines of this being a deep quarterback class. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's supposed to be not top heavy, like it's supposed to be like the Bo Nix draft class, like just lots of pieces throughout.
Okay.
And I would not mind the Lions taking a page from the Packers playbook and drafting Jared Goff's replacement. The biggest thing that I don't want is Goff being extended regardless of his cap hit for this year. I do not want to be married to Jared Goff for the next 4 or 5 seasons, Chet. Okay. I am not entertained by that at all. I think that will, quite frankly, set the franchise back and not put them on track to achieve the ultimate goal, which is winning a Super Bowl. I am still in the market for a big boy offensive coordinator. You know, Johnny Moe is not the answer. And I personally think Kelvin Shepard, first half of the season, he probably got a B+, A-. Second half of the season, I mean, he was flummoxed by just about everybody that was a decent offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith made him look silly. I expect Ben Johnson to make him look silly this week. His front seven's been healthy. Apparently, Aleem McNeil's dealing with an abdomen injury this week, but that's the first we've seen of it.
People are going to get dinged, right?
Yeah. So I've got a couple names for you that are very intriguing to me. Okay. One would be down in Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles. If the Buccaneers lose to the Panthers tomorrow and miss the playoffs, apparently he is on the hot seat. This is an organization that has let some talented coaches go. The head coach of the Panthers, Dave Canales, and Liam Cohen, your head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would love Todd Bowles as a defensive coordinator, not head coach.
100%. Okay. I don't know what connection he has to Dan and company, to Holmes and Dan and whatnot. They seem to hire from within their group of people. Like, have we seen them go outside of this whirlpool of people they've surrounded themselves with over the last decade, and they're in the business?
No, but they're going to have to.
They're going to have to eventually, right? They're going to have to reach out.
Another name for you is close to home, but he is a unrestricted free agent, or not. He doesn't have a contract in place after this weekend, is Brian Flores. I would love him.
My word. I don't know how you're going to, if you get him,
there's no way the Vikings are going to let him go.
Pay the man his money. I mean, I'll take him. That would be incredible. I don't think the Vikings are letting him go.
Neither
the
do
strength
I.
of that. Yeah.
But obviously that's a Christmas present that you and I would both love under the tree.
Goodness.
Another name for you is, and we don't know what's going to happen with Kevin Stefanski and his staff in Cleveland, but Jim Schwartz has done a really good job with Cleveland's defense. It's the offense that's been the problem for the Browns. Could there be a homecoming for one Jim Schwartz? I'd be happy having him lead our defense.
I would not kick Jim Schwartz out of the running. I like Jim Schwartz. I'm fine with Jim. I liked his fire, and I think his fire would, in an interesting way, I think his fire would match that of Dan's or complement it well. Do you know where I'm going with that?
100%. I think
they could be a really good tandem on the sideline.
Of those three names, quite frankly, the one I like the least is probably Todd Bowles. However,
which is lovely. My goodness.
I would take any one of those three and be ecstatic with it. Nothing against you, Kelvin Shepard, but I think it proved that the job was probably a little too big for you. And Dan, this year, losing both coordinators, really needed strong lieutenants or offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and he just didn't seem to get that this year.
I think the problem that we're going to come up against here is there's a wealth of options here for defensive coordinator, interesting options, good, intriguing options coming up for this season. But I could see, of all the coaches, I could see Kelvin retaining his job for another year. Because they have to get an OC, right?
So let's move over. I agree.
And I know they haven't guaranteed Kelvin. I know they've said Kelvin could be gone. Like, he's not safe by any means. I'm just looking at, the level, the need, the stack of needs here all of a sudden, and keeping him just to keep a D coordinator around, like just to not have to fill that spot, seems like a path of least resistance going into the next season, so they can concentrate on other stuff.
Let's talk.
Unfortunately, that's where all the resources are right now.
So let's talk about offensive coordinators. Do you have any names that you like?
I have. This is the problem with OCs. I have, you just rattled off 3 DCs, right? And they're all coming up with the end of a contract, possibly going to be out in the market. I don't know a single offensive coordinator that is of that ilk that is going to be out there looking. Who do you have your mind on?
Well, I'm just going to give you top of the list, but these guys both could come back. And I agree that this list is not nearly as sexy or appeasing.
It's not. That's the problem. Like, this is what we need, but the choices aren't great.
I mean, number 1 would be Mike McDaniel from Miami.
Sure. We've talked about this also. I'd love that.
Yeah. 2, we've talked about this gentleman as well. If for some reason the Steelers finally decide to make wholesale changes, Arthur Smith, I think, would fit in very well. He loves to run the ball, set up, establish the run. I think he'd work well with Dan. Again, a former head coach, same with Mike McDaniel. So I think you're going to sense a theme here. A name that doesn't appease me, but we know he's available and we know he's probably going to get hired somewhere good, Brian Daboll. I mean, he worked wonders with Josh Allen. And if the Lions did decide, because they're going to be drafting, 13, 14 this year, to enter the quarterback pool, I can't think of a better tutor for this next quarterback than that of one Brian Daboll. Do you have any other names that are jumping out to you?
I don't, and those are that. McDaniel was my number 1. He's been my number 1 choice from the word go, and I think Daboll is an interesting addition to this list. I don't know that, like you said, I don't think any of these guys are nearly as sexy as the D coordinator options that could be out there for us. Unfortunately, we need the OC that bad. It's just
Yeah. But wasn't last year's, if you think about it, the offensive coordinators that went on to become head coaches last offseason, Liam Cohen, mentioned him again, Jacksonville Jaguars, Ben Johnson, Chicago Bears. I mean, they're really doing fantastic things. Yeah. I mean, those are two potential division winners. You know, we could also talk about, I mean, a team that's often overlooked, the New Orleans Saints and Kellen Moore. I think they've won 5 straight.
Kellen Moore was always going to be an all-star, right?
Yeah.
Like the second that he left the Lions, I was like, we just lost one of the best future coaches from our ranks. And I know that was years ago. Don't get me wrong. It was a long time ago.
He spent time in the NFC East.
You know, I mean, he's been all over the place, right? But
he's learned from some of the best.
It's been, everybody looked at him and was like, Kellen Moore is going to be a guy. Would take a Mike McDaniel. I would take a Dayball. I would take Arthur Smith. I think any one of those 3 would be better than what we currently have going on. But I think Arthur Smith would be my choice of those 3. I don't think Mike McDaniel's is good a fit with Dan. And I think Arthur Smith is the guy if you're going to get somebody. But again, is a question mark, is he even going to be available?
Yeah.
We don't know. And it's not as clear cut as the D guys.
Do you think
could be?
The Steelers-Ravens till Sunday night, winner take division. Do you think either of those teams the loser might see some wholesale changes?
It's hard to say because the Ravens with Harbaugh, like that, they just had kind of a rough season. I mean, Lamar was injured for a little bit of it. They had some defensive guys missing. They're kind of like the Lions. They suffered injuries, and except they saw the feedback from those injuries earlier in the year. Whereas the Lions saw it later in the year. I think the Steelers, I mean, what are they doing? Here's a classic example of the Steelers going through the quarterback carousel, right? Like they had to find a quarterback. They went through Russell Wilson. That didn't work out. They had Pickett. Hands were too small. You go through the whole group and you get down to, they signed old man Rodgers for a season. And Rodgers did pretty well. Phillip Rivers might be their quarterback next year for all we know. I have no idea. But it does lend. You watch Rodgers have some success there, even after they lose Pickens, who was their best receiver. And you watch Rivers have some success in Indianapolis. Granted, I couldn't even believe what I was watching half the time, but the guy can still throw a ball and find a receiver. And you start to realize that experience at the quarterback position becomes more and more and more valuable as the years pass on. You know where I'm going with this. Like Jared Goff, can he become more and more and more and more valuable as the years go on? At any rate, I'm getting off course here. We're talking about coaches. I just don't know where the Steelers are headed, and I don't know if they're going to get rid of an Arthur Smith at this point. That's
okay. All. The last name I had.
So the reality, I just don't see a realistic group of OCs out there that are available.
Last name, let's say the Ravens do make wholesale changes. Does Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator of the Ravens, do anything for you?
I see where you're going with this now. Again, better than where we are. I'm not sure who they dig up out of the ether to fill this role. I mean, there's nobody else out there I can think of. So, yeah, it could be a Todd Monken. It could be somebody that, a team that just decides we're gutting everything, we're starting over, and we're going to throw these people out there into the free agent market. I don't know. I don't have answers at OC, which is what scares me most for this offseason. I just don't see clean answers there. The defensive coordinator stuff I see, but we're also closer to keeping Kelvin Shepard than we are John Morton. So
wheels within wheels, a lot of conundrums here.
There's just a lot to really pick over there. I hate having to shop for coordinators because I do feel like sometimes a little bit of it is like you're either getting a guy who was a head coach that got fired, Dable. Let's just take a guy like Dable, right? You're getting a guy like him that had his shot at head coaching, didn't work out, leaves, goes back to being an OC, finds that magic again. And I have no doubt that could possibly happen with Dable. Okay. And I do feel like he could do some stuff with Goff. I feel like he could work with him. But the rest of these guys, like, you're going to bring some young buck up? I mean, I don't know. Who do you bring up in that case? Do you go try to take somebody from, somebody else's staff that's a QB coach or an assistant OC type deal? Like, what do you go get?
You're going to go to the Shanahan or McVay tree.
Yeah. That's what you're going to have to go grab, some young up-and-comer.
The Liam Cohen tree, potentially the Kellen Moore tree.
There you go.
Knowing that the person's never called plays because all those guys call their own plays.
Yep.
therein lies the weakness. I can tell you two names that do not intrigue me whatsoever.
Okay.
Matt Nagy from the Chiefs, never called plays. He was a complete and total bust with the Bears.
Yep.
And then the second one is a little bit intriguing. No, I'm going to leave the list at Matt Nagy. He's really the only one that I'm just not.
Just leave it on that negative note that nobody wants Matt Nagy.
No,
that's not a. That's a guy who
stay in
keeps
Kansas City.
Warm. He's like John Morton, keeps the seat warm.
Exactly.
I don't know.
All right, real quick, I'm going to talk about Jared Goff's press conference, and then I'm going to dive into injury reports.
Okay.
Excuse me, Dan Campbell's press conference regarding Jared Goff. He said he's a stud.
Yep.
We love him. We love this guy. He's a winner. Do you take it the same way a lot of the talking heads did, that the Lions are going to extend Jared Goff now?
I think they will restructure. I think they'll extend and restructure. They can't have that $70 million cap hit next year on Goff. So they're going to restructure his deal, which will mean committing to him for a couple of years, which I don't think is the worst thing. I'm not going to lie to you. You don't like it?
I don't
think it's the worst thing. Well, let me ask you this. Let's suppose you go draft a quarterback this year. Okay. Let's just suppose you do. Who's on your top of your list?
I mean, obviously Mendoza's friggin' amazing. Diego Pavia's amazing. In terms of offering, dual threat on that, I mean, I love. Here he's going back to school, but Lenore Sellers from South Carolina intrigues me. Here's the thing, Chet. I don't want to be the last of the Mohicans, and that's what's going to happen to the Lions with Goff. If we have 4 more years of a stationary quarterback that has absolutely positively no mobility when the pocket collapses, you are doing something that the rest of the NFL isn't doing. And so therefore you're having to place more importance on your offensive line, more importance on your running game.
Yeah, no, I understand what pocket passer means. But you do realize, like you brought up Mendoza, he's a pocket passer, Bill. He's slow. He's not a runner. He's slow with average arm strength is his scouting report.
A, he won't be available, so we don't have to worry about it. And B, his foot speed's a lot better than Jared Goff's. I mean, I'd argue anybody right now in the NFL, save Aaron Rodgers' foot speed is better than Jared Goff's.
I think one of the problems is a lot of the guys that are coming out in this draft, Mendoza, Dante Moore, Garrett Nussmeier. Let's just take those 3 guys.
I love Dante Moore.
You like Dante Moore. Again, he's a pocket passer. Better at vertical throwing than Mendoza. He's better deep down the field. He's got a strong arm, very accurate, but he's a little thin. Okay. He's young. He's very young. He's only a sophomore. He's a slower runner. All right. So he's not as quick as you would. Like, I look at Oregon quarterbacks, and I guess Oregon quarterbacks have made me feel like they're a little more mobile, the Bo Nix route, that type of thing. And he lacks a little consistency on short passing. So you're looking at another pocket passer. So you've got 2 pocket passers in Mendoza and Moore. And I think Moore is probably coming out this year from what I understand. And then you got Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. Also, he's supposedly the best of the pure passers in the group. But again, another slower guy that's not a very mobile quarterback. So now you're down, when you get down into the rest of the group, look at a guy, late round guy, right? Like a project like Carson Beck. He's Jared Goff 2.0. He's a slow pocket passer who can place a good ball, okay? Inconsistent deep, though. And then you're looking at Pavia and Aller, all right? Like, Pavia is, I feel like he's a system quarterback. Like, there's a system thing there. I don't see him being a good NFL quarterback. Just, put it where it is. You can say he is, but I just don't see a quarterback class coming out here who can really help us. You go with, like, Mateer from Oklahoma. All right. He's fast. He's quicker, moves a little quicker, but he's also short. He's not that big. You're looking at more of like maybe a Bo Nix-ish type guy in him. But I just am not sold on these guys coming out in the draft. So that leaves you with what? It leaves you with Kyler Murray. How do you feel about Kyler Murray and Jacoby Brissett? You think they can do Kyler is basically forgotten in Cardinal land?
I would much prefer Mac Jones to either of them.
Okay. Mac Jones, not a bad option. I'll tell you what, if you can get a Mac Jones, maybe. I just don't know. Again, we go back to this, like, what do you need and how bad do you need it? If they can extend Goff for, get another season or 2 out of him, I could see them going that route and restructuring his whole deal. That's what I think is probably going to happen.
So let's go to the injury report, and I'll tell you why I'm concerned with all of this.
Yep.
All right, Tristan Colon.
Yeah.
Wrist. didn't practice. Elaine McNeil, abdomen, didn't practice. I'm going to stay with the offensive line. Panay Sewell, ankle, didn't practice.
Wow.
Coyote Awasika, illness, didn't practice. Taylor Decker, shoulder and the same illness, didn't practice. Christian Mahogany, illness, limited practice. Giovanni Manu, knee, limited practice. And then rounding it out, let's go back to the secondary. Avante Maddox is banged up. He's dealing with the back and same illness. Amon-Ra St. Brown, knee and ankle, still dealing with that. Thomas Harper, concussion protocol. Same with Alex Anzalone. I wouldn't expect either of them to play. So again, it's not so much the injuries this year, Chad. It's the fact that not only is your starting offensive line dinged up, it's your second string and now third string players that are dinged up. And so in a game where the weather is calling for a high of 26, a low of 18, partly cloudy, as the Bears like to say, Chicago Bear weather, he who establishes the running game more successfully is going to win said game. With that offensive line and the injury report we just saw, I am a little dubious.
They're dinged up
on the fact that the Lions will be able to establish the run. Your guy, Jared Goff.
You know how I feel about him in the weather. All right, I get, I know he's going to have the gloves on.
And here's my part about why I don't want to extend him is, A, he needs a really strong offensive line. B, he needs a running game. C, he needs indoor environment.
The elements are rough for him.
There's just too many ifs. And I am coming to the conclusion that I don't think that Jared Goff will win a Super Bowl in the NFL with the Lions or with anybody.
Jared Goff needs to train in like the Arctic over the summer and get used to throwing in cold weather. He needs like a simulator or something like that to train in.
So he can't just step outside of Allen Park and do it?
No,
at
he
the
can't.
outdoor
Not
field?
during the summer. Not in the summertime.
Okay, got it.
It's got to be windy and cold, and it's got to replicate what Green Bay and Chicago are going to be like in the winter months is what I want.
All right, let's head over to the Bears. Jonah Jackson, ex-Lion, is dealing with the same illness that everybody's dealing with. He's a starting guard. Joe Tyron Shoyinka, backup defensive ends, dealing with a concussion. Don't expect him. Roma Duze is still dealing with a foot. He's their stud wide receiver, former first-round pick last year. I wouldn't expect to see him. Nick McLeod's dealing with the same illness. He's a cornerback. I think he probably will play because he's been limited. Ozzie Trapilo, backup offensive tackle, knee quad injury. He's limited. He'll play. Josh Blackwell, cornerback, dealing with a bum shoulder, but he has been a full participant. Luther Burden III, this year's second-round draft pick, wide receiver stud. Quad injury, but he's been a full participant, and same with Olamide Zacharias, third wide receiver, slot wide receiver. I expect him to go as well. So I want to say, Chet, this is 9 of the last 10 the Lions go into a matchup in a game where they are by far the more injured team. And this does not bode well in any way, shape, or form, I think, for the outcome.
Yep.
The line is only -3 Bears, so the Bears are favored by 3. The over-under is 50.5. So Vegas is expecting some fireworks and some shootout. I mentioned the weather. The field's going to be terrible. Footing's going to be hard to get. I don't like that Elaine McNeil's not playing. It would be a game that Williams, the rookie, should be a run stuffer, but who knows if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us your fantasy outlook and then we'll do predictions.
So I have a couple concerns along the lines of our quarterbacks in this game. It isn't supposed to be gusty, but it will be a little breezy for this game. Cold and breezy is rough passing weather. Everything I have read about this game is, and you look at the over-under at 50.5 points, there's going to be some scoring. Everybody thinks there's going to be about 4 to 5 touchdowns thrown in this game. 3 from Caleb, 2 from Goff. And I don't know if I see that or not. And if they are, they're going to be shorter touchdowns. I don't think we're going to get any big explosives, as John Morton likes to call them. I think you're going to see some running game stuff here. I think Swift might have a game. He's not injured, right? He's healthy at this point.
He's healthy.
From what I understand.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to have a pretty big game against the Lions. I have a feeling. Now, the one thing we got going for us is this Dan Campbell pride, and you know how they can be. They want to win this game, whatever. Personally, it does no good for them to win this game. Like, losing has so much upside in this game, but nobody wants to see the Lions lose to the Bears and lose the last game of the season. So I'm going to go with Swift on the Bears side. I'm going to say Amon-Ra comes out. He's going to play. He's not 100%, but I think he and J-Mo can do some damage to these Bears D-backs, if Goff can get any time in the pocket at all. We'll see if that happens. It's going to depend on who we roll out there on that O-line, and based on your injury report, doesn't look pretty. So I think maybe J-Mo can get some short passes and run with them for a bit and tear up this defensive backfield. So I'm going to take J-Mo for the Lions. I'm going to take Swift for the Bears. And, I've gone with Gibbs and or Monty everywhere. Tried to call a Monty game when it's a Monty game. Tried to call a Gibbs when it's our run game is in disarray. This could be the game where we rush for 200 freaking yards. I don't know, but it's too much of a gamble to call out those things in the fantasy world. So I'm going to take J-Mo and Swift on the other side of the ball. I don't know that either quarterback's going to blow up for you as far as that goes. I have a question for you, Bill, before we get into predictions. As I looked over all this stuff and I started trying to find the players who are going to click and blow up in this game, are the Bears for real? We can spin right into our prediction with this, but are the Bears for real or are they fake? They have a fourth place schedule. They've benefited from a fourth place schedule this season. I think you and I have seen that. Okay. The Lions, if they lose here, will get a fourth place schedule next year. The New England Patriots are in the same boat. They've benefited from a fourth place schedule this season. Do you see this? I don't really want to win this game. I hate to say it. As much as I'd like to sweep Ben Johnson on the season, it does us no good. What are your thoughts?
Yes. To answer your initial question.
You think the Bears are for real?
Meaning, if for real, they won the division going away. They made that, stake that claim pretty early, I guess.
Okay.
And yes, I think we miss, if there's one thing we miss outside of Frank Ragnow this season, it's Ben Johnson. So I think they're well coached. I think Dennis Allen's yet another defensive coordinator that couldn't handle being a head coach.
Okay.
But he's a wonderful defensive coordinator.
Yep.
I just want to talk to you about this. And I just want to see what this does to change your mind. So since November 9th, the Bears beat the Giants at home 24-20. They then went to Minnesota, beat the Vikings 19-17. They then beat the Steelers at home 31-28. They then beat the Eagles in Philly 24-15. They came home, went up to Lambeau, lost to the Packers. No shame in that, 28-21. Then come back home, beat the Browns 31-3, beat the Packers 22-16, lose a 4-point tilt out in San Francisco 42-38. So when you say, are they real? I just look at that body of work and it's more impressive than anything the Lions have put together at any point this season.
Okay, that doesn't mean anything. The Lions are in last place. So you're comparing them to the Lions. I'm sitting there looking at that. The only impressive win in that group is the Eagles. And the Eagles were down when they did it.
Okay.
We almost beat the Eagles. That was an ugly game prior to the week prior. And they lost to the Niners in San Francisco in a very high-scoring game. I don't see how their body of work is that impressive. Just my opinion. I just don't see it. I think they benefited from a fourth place schedule. If they play our schedule, do they get 9 wins? Probably not.
No. But then they also wouldn't have a first-year head coach as well. Because they wouldn't have fired the previous regime had they not had to have a fourth place schedule.
At any rate, I don't think that in comparison, I think it's apples to oranges.
Well, let's just say this. Yeah. Let's say they get it's going to be bear weather for the first playoff game. They get that at home.
Yep.
Say they play the Packers. They're favored in that game. And then say they play whoever's left of the NFC West, whether that's San Francisco, Seattle, or LA, again at Soldier Field, I like whoever they play there. Will they lose in the NFC Championship game? Probably. But again, that's a great season.
If they win tomorrow, they get the 2 seed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
If they lose, what do they get?
They can't be any lower than the 3 seed.
They can't be lower than the 3 seed then?
No, because the 4 seed's going to be the Tampa Bay, Carolina winner.
Okay.
And so, they're either the 2 seed or the 3 seed, which... Okay. Yeah, if the worst case scenario for the Bears is they win week 1 and then have to host Philly, which they will lose that in the divisional game. That's just my prediction. And I said it earlier offline. Philly's a team that everybody's kind of sleeping on. They've won 5 straight, and I can see Philly making some noise
for this, right? This is what happens when you have a program in place that just you can have a down season and still get to the playoffs and roll because you have people like Hurts back there, and you've got Saquon, and you've got all these guys with immense ability. You got a defense that's good.
We talk about the game being such razor thin margins.
Yeah.
No, have the Bears done anything all that impressive? Probably not, Chet. But the fact is, they did go to Philly and win. The Lions
won in the margins, right?
They couldn't do that. They beat the Vikings once. The Lions couldn't do that. They beat the Packers once. The Lions couldn't do that. So, those are three examples right there. They beat the Steelers.
Well, that's the difference in the season right there. Packers and Vikings. I mean, if you flip-flop those around,
that's
you have a totally different division.
Yeah. So, a game in the margins, I do think Caleb Williams is going to be a superstar.
Okay.
I do think
You're bought in on Caleb.
He's the best quarterback in the division now. And
Beginning of the season, we thought he was the worst. He was an idiot, and he wasn't going to last through Ben Johnson. Do you remember that?
Yes. Well,
fascinating what 16, 17 games does.
So prediction, I'm going to go low scoring, 19-14 Bears.
19-14 Bears, low scoring. Look at you, not even tempting that over. Not even tempting it. I'm not too far off from you, actually. I'm going to take 21-17 Bears.
Like it. All right.
That's where I think we're at. Maybe a field goal out of our guys, and that's about it.
Go Honolulu Blue and Silver. Thank you for listening to the Detroit Lions Litter Box. Expect our sister pod to come up and running here as Hot Stove heats up. The Detroit Tigers Litter Box.
Back to baseball, baby.
All right, Chet. We will do a post-game recap. We'll do a couple off-season, draft, free agency, coordinator hires, but we're getting close to signing off on the Lions.
We're almost done on the Lions pod for the season, folks. Hang in there with us for this final game. Go Lions.
Go Lions.